The rivalry between South Africa and Ireland in rugby has become one of the most intense and fascinating spectacles in the sport. It's a clash that has evolved dramatically over the years, and former Springboks skipper John Smit recently shed some light on just how deep this rivalry runs. Smit, who captained his country to World Cup glory in 2007, remembers a time when Irish rugby was just finding its feet in the professional era. But fast forward to today, and the landscape is completely different. This weekend, Andy Farrell's Ireland is set to face Rassie Erasmus's Springboks in Dublin, and the anticipation is through the roof. Looking at the recent history, Ireland has had the upper hand, winning 4 of their last 5 meetings. This includes drawing a 2-match series in South Africa back in July 2024. That track record, combined with the return of key players like Andrew Porter, Josh van der Flier, Bundy Aki, and Gary Ringrose, gives Farrell every reason to be confident. They believe they have the grit to stand up to the sheer power of the Springboks. This match isn't just another game. Alongside England versus the All Blacks and South Africa visiting France, it's a headline fixture of the Autumn Nations series. Speaking on the RTE Rugby podcast, John Smit explained what makes this rivalry so special. He said that rivalries are built on a deep, earned respect for what your opponent brings to the table. And you can always tell how strong a rivalry is by how much South African fans hate the other team. He means this in the most positive way possible, of course. Smit describes South African fans as, let's say, psychotic in their passion. There is an electric energy when the Boks play Ireland because every fan knows the threat is real. Ireland has been ranked number 1, they've beaten the All Blacks, and they've won 6 Nations titles. All of that history builds up to this massive test match. Smit also finds it fascinating to watch how different nations react when their teams don't perform. He points to the panic in New Zealand right now, where it feels like the world is ending for some fans. He saw similar reactions from Irish supporters after a loss. It's that incredible passion, that fanaticism from supporters on both sides, that truly fuels these epic rivalries. Both sets of fans know their team could lose, and they crave the ultimate test to see just how good their side really is. If we rewind to the Rugby World Cup 26 months ago, Ireland got the better of South Africa in a tense pool match, winning 13-8. But as we all know, the Springboks bounced back in the knockout stages to retain their title, while Ireland was unfortunately sent home after a quarter-final loss to the All Blacks. Before that exit, Ireland was seen as a major contender for the World Cup trophy. While their consistency might have wavered slightly since then, Smit insists that Ireland is still viewed as a massive threat, especially when they're playing at home in Dublin. He really admires the Irish rugby system, calling it unbelievable. He explained that both South Africa and Ireland have incredible talent pipelines coming through their school systems. The real challenge is getting the best out of that talent and not letting anyone slip through the cracks. Smit believes Ireland's model is brilliant. It revolves around their 4 provinces and how they manage their international players. They limit the number of non-Irish players in each position, which guarantees that 3 or 4 Irish players always have an opportunity to develop right across the board. This system was put in place a long time ago, and it started producing results fairly quickly. It's a system that just keeps on giving. He also touched on the pressure coaches are under. No coach can start a season by saying it's a rebuilding year, especially after senior players retire. Supporters just don't buy the judge me in for years at the World Cup line. What fans and pundits want to see is the continuous success of a model that has proven to work for so long. And that's exactly what South Africa sees in Ireland. They see a system that works, which is why Ireland remains such a threat. That's why Saturday's game will be an epic battle, and it's a game the Springboks could easily lose if they don't bring their absolute game. Smit described Ireland's system as one of the most successful models in world rugby. It's simple, it's effective, and everything is geared towards making the national team stronger. In South Africa, they've been trying to get closer to that model. While it hasn't always been the case, Smit genuinely believes they are now as close as they've ever been. But Ireland has been operating in that space for a very long time. He summarized by saying that for South Africa, there were always the key tests on this end-of-year tour that had the potential to derail their season. The beauty of the tour so far is that the Boks have been able to blood some new young players and overcome challenges. But Saturday is the big one. Saturday is a true test match. Interestingly, Smit also confessed that he initially opposed Rassie Erasmus' plan to select overseas-based players for the Springboks when Erasmus returned from his coaching stint in Ireland. As someone who had been on the board of South Africa Rugby, the old-school part of him wanted to preserve the local competitions. He remembered being a young player and learning from senior Springboks who were finishing their careers in South Africa. They were his mentors. So, initially, he was against the idea. But looking back now at what Erasmus has achieved, Smit has had to eat his words. He admits he was wrong. Allowing players to play overseas for top clubs in Japan, France, and England has had several positive effects. First, it allows South Africa's best players to gain experience with different tactics and coaching styles, giving them a much broader understanding of the global game. Coaches in South Africa also benefit from the knowledge these players bring back. The second, and perhaps most important, benefit is that it takes a massive financial burden off the national union. SA Rugby has fewer big-name contracts to pay for. This, in turn, opens up more spots in local competitions for younger players to get exposure and experience. The average age of their domestic teams has dropped dramatically, creating a new pipeline of talent. Of course, there is a downside. The Currie Cup, South Africa's premier domestic competition, is definitely not what it was 20 or 30 years ago. That's the negative consequence of this new selection policy. But overall, the positives, especially for the strength of the national team, have been undeniable. Smit's insights really paint a picture of two rugby powerhouses built on different but highly effective systems. One, a centralized model perfected over decades, and the other, a more recent, pragmatic approach that has delivered unprecedented success. It all adds up to a fascinating clash of styles and philosophies. The respect is immense, the passion is off the charts, and the stakes are incredibly high. This isn't just a game, it's a statement. And come Saturday, Dublin will be the epicenter of the rugby world. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's going to be a classic, so don't miss it. If you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more rugby analysis. Catch you in the next one.